Board Game Social, hosted by Dean Leggett. Board Game Social, hosted by Dean Leggett. You might think you've seen something, but you ain't seen nothing yet. So many games, it's unbelievable. You couldn't play them all, no, that would be inconceivable. Well, Dean's gonna check some out for you, shine a little light on just a few. Board Game Social, hosted by Dean Leggett.
Greetings everyone, this is Dean with Board Game Social, and we're here today for kind of a special occasion because this is the very first top 10 list that we're doing here on the channel. And joining me today is my gaming partner, my gaming buddy, my import from overseas, and that is Dan Joyce. Dan, let's tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi, well, as you can tell from the funky accent, I'm not from around here. Grew up in England, moved here 15 years ago because I married an Ohio girl. Known Dean for how long now, Dean?
Oh, I don't know. 8 years, 5 years? I don't know. Seems like an eternity.
It does. And we get together whenever we can when Dean's not roaming around the country.
True. Not as often as we'd like, but anyways, we thought we'd bring our top 10 list, and this one's a little different. There's a lot of top 10 lists out there, and this one we wanted to do our top 10 most memorable gaming experiences from 2015. And I know 2015 was 4 months ago, but we've had some technical issues on getting together, so here it is without further delay. So, number 10. My number 10 is an experience I had when I went to Grand Con up in Michigan. And I know you weren't able to attend, but while I was there, I had the opportunity to play Run, Fight, or Die.
Okay.
Run, Fight, or Die being the zombie game, a lot of dice chucking. But the thing that made it most memorable for me was that I got to play with the designer, Richard Lanius. And Richard Lanius is one of the nicest, most laid-back, humble designers I've ever met. And not only that, he's quite a subtle trash talker. It's his game, obviously, and he knew all the nuances, and he had no problem defeating myself and the other guy who was playing. And like I said, just trash talking enough where you didn't know if he was serious about it or if he was joking, but he did a great job leading us into the game and walking us through it. And I don't know, have you ever played Run, Fight, or Die?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's a light game. Definitely one that my son likes, but it scratches an itch if you just want to dice chucker and kill some zombies.
Zombies.
Yeah, zombies.
Okay, my number 10 is Churchill by Mark Herman.
Okay.
I got this through pre-order from GMT. I've had the pleasure of playing it 3 times now. One of the unusual features is a 3-player game. It's designed for 3 players.
Right.
I got it mainly because it's an intriguing subject matter. It's World War II, but it's not World War II. It's deceptively simple and it's got layers of complexity underneath. The players I played it with, for example, David, played Stalin and loved the whole sitting there. We make a decision, Stalin goes, "Niet, we're not doing that." It has a very neat abstraction of the war.
Right.
You enjoy fighting the war, but it's the interaction of the big 3. I'm a history buff, I love history, and the personalities of the big 3 come through really, really easily. Stalin is sitting there not doing that.
Right.
Churchill is sitting there attempting to be bombastic constantly, and
you played perfectly.
Oh, I love being Churchill. The only thing I don't have is the £500 and cigars. So consequently, I just have to pretend that bit. And the Roosevelt character is constantly playing the mediator, but sneakily objective, rolling out there and being a little bit underhanded, which is kind of cool.
You say rolling out because he's in a wheelchair?
Oh, God, don't go there. Oh, no, he didn't.
Yeah, I enjoyed Churchill a lot. I actually thought it would be higher on your list because I know how much you enjoyed it when you first got it, how much you played it. So I actually thought it would be higher.
Oh, I've got way better games. Way better games.
You must. All right. So that's our number 10. Number 9. All right, our number 9, Dan, why don't you lead us off?
Number 9 is RAF by Decision Games, John Butterfield, produced in 2009, but I have the 2013 reprint.
Okay.
The thing I love about this game is it's a solo game that really does make you feel like you're doubting. But it also has that 2-player component. If you really want to play RAF versus Luftwaffe, there is a 2-player game in the box.
Okay.
In fact, actually, the box has 3 games in it. Solo RAF, solo Luftwaffe, 2-player. The thing I love about this the most is the agonising decisions. There's that moment in the game when you're playing solo where you're looking at this massive raid coming in and you're thinking, right, I'm going to commit everything. Hang on a minute, there may be a follow-up raid. And there's that horrible moment when you do flip a follow-up raid and you're sitting there looking at it, go, I've got nothing, I have absolutely nothing, that thing is going to destroy something, and it really feels like an overwhelming challenge. I haven't won it yet. As the RAF, I have not won it yet. I'm determined to win it at some point. There is an awesome vassal module for it, which I tend to use now because that way I don't have to have it loaded out on the table. But one of these days I will play it 2-player. I haven't played it 2-player yet. But RAF, Decision Games, excellent game.
All right, I've not played RAF. And you know me, I'm not a huge air person as far as a theme, a genre. So I'm not even sure if I've ever looked at RAF, even online. So, but I know you like the games that have a multiple player count, especially if it has a solo player count.
Right.
Just because where we live is fairly rural, so we don't have a large community of gamers around. So we do have to resort a lot to solo game variants for most of our games. So, all right, excellent. Well, my number 9 is Legendary Marvel or Marvel Legendary. And I mean, this is a game that really mainly play just with my son. We play 2-player a lot. Every once in a while, we'll get a third person. But I know you have some of the other Legendary games in the series. But Marvel Legendary, if you like a deck building game with a co-op, and you're into superheroes, it's a great game. We enjoy it because it is a co-op aspect to it. But you're still fighting somewhat with each other by taking cards maybe your partner may want because they're going to be better in your deck, and at the very end you're also still kind of competing to see who's the overall winner, right. between the superheroes. And I'll tell you what, Marvel Legendary with all the expansions, they had 2 last year with Secret Wars. I think they have a Civil War one coming out this year. They have a Captain America one that just came out. There is so much content for that game, so many different variabilities, and the replayability factor on that game is through the roof. I don't know if I'll ever play every combination, and some of them I don't really have any desire to play some of the characters, but as far as a superhero game, it is my favorite. I know a lot of people like Sentinels. I like Marvel Legendary a lot better than Sentinels.
I have both. Sentinels and Legendary Encounters actually was one of the considerations for the top 10 for me, and of course Legendary Big Trouble this August. Big Trouble in Little China Legendary will definitely be a purchase. And and I don't know if I said this, but a lot of the games that I have that I play with my family or with my son in particular, so he's the main gamer, those are the memories, those are the things that make the game special, and this especially with Marvel, because I can get him to play this pretty much any time I want to play. I just have to bring it out, and he's game for it. So, my number 9, Marvel Legendary.
Number 8. Okay, moving on down the list, my number 8 is Caverna.
Okay.
Caverna. Let's see, that's Mayfair, right? Mm-hmm. That's a Rosenberg game. I believe.
Yui.
And that, it's a worker placement, resource management game. But the thing I like the most about it is that you can play it at different player counts. Probably 3 to 4 is the best. 2 is not great. I wouldn't probably play it more than 4 just for time's sake. But it's one of those worker placement games where you can... It still has a little bit of a... I don't know if I call it a combat system. Where you can go out on those quests and kind of build your dwarf up to a higher level, but allows you to get a few little better things. There's never really any direct conflict with another player.
Right.
I mean, the only direct conflict there is with another player is you stealing their tile before they get a chance to get to it. I don't know. I've never had a bad game of Caverna, and we played it here once or twice. Right. And it's just it's a nice it's a thinky game, but it's not a brain burner.
Yeah, you're right. Lots of decisions, lots of I want to do this, this, and this, but I can only do one of them, which is one of the criteria for my great games. You have to make decisions. The path is not clear. Holds up to 7 in the box. I have no idea why you would ever want to play with 7 people, because let's face it, you can do your turn, walk away, make breakfast, sit down, watch a couple of TV shows and come back, and it still won't be your turn.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the game. Even though you can watch the board to try to plot out what your turn is going to be the next turn, so many things can change. Someone can take that tile, they put their dwarf on the spot that you want to get. So you can do some pre-planning, but it's really luck of the draw. I'm going to say luck of the draw. You really just have to wait until it's your turn to be able to place that tile out there or that dwarf out there, because your best laid plans can be destroyed.
Right.
So that's my number 9, Caverna. Or my number 8, Caverna. Sorry.
Right. My number 8, Galaxy Defenders. Ares game. Simone Ramirez, Romano, and Nuzio Sures. 2014. Now, I watched a number of reviews of this, and I really wasn't sure. And the sad thing is that turned me off was the whole Ameritrash look to it. And I've had a bad experience with a few.
It's kind of snobby.
Yeah, I know. Well, honestly, and this is probably going to get some hate comments, but TI3 is what turned me off of Ameritrash.
Okay.
But I read some reviews, and I thought, right, I'm going to go with this. It's an awesome game. I've played it solo. I've played it with 2 players. I've played it with 3 players, and all of them have been fun. Every single scenario we've ever done has been fun. There's been that moment when you're flipping the alien action cards, and everyone looks at the card and they go, "We're dead." And I love those moments in a game. That moment when you and then of course your characters step up to the plate and just roll dice like crazy, and you think, "Yes, we survived," and it generates an emotion. It's a small footprint. The scenarios of really small footprint, but it's a big game and it has a campaign.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, you've talked about this game for a while now, and I've never played it yet. And you keep saying that I would love it. You keep saying that Nolan would love it. It's definitely one that we'll have to play someday. I like Ares. Ares is a good company. They make some quality products. Their Sails of Glory, Wings of Glory, and I actually saw that at Gamma they were previewing one of their new games coming out this year. And I'm not usually one for a hidden movement sort of deduction game like a Fury of Dracula.
Right.
But they have one that's going to be based on the horror movies, the slasher movies of the 80s and 90s, and it's summer camp. But the twist on this one is that the hunter is the one who is trying to find the campers. They're the ones doing the hidden movement.
Right.
So, and I thought that was kind of cool. It was kind of interesting twist on things.
And they've also got a similar to Galaxy Defenders, but a fantasy version coming out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is probably going to scratch my Descent itch, although, again, Descent was one of the ones that almost made the list. But now they've got the new app for Descent.
I know, I'm very excited.
I'm looking forward to that.
So, all right, so that was your number 8, Galaxy Defenders. Number 7,
Okay,
7.
my number 7 is Ashes: Rise of the Phoenix Spawn.
Okay.
Plaid Hat Games, Isaac Vega, came out last year. Stunning graphics. You know, when Dean put me onto this game, and I looked at the cards, and it's like, I want this.
Right.
Then you realise it's got innovative mechanics. I mean, dice rolling in a card game. I love dice rolling. There's that moment when you pick up the dice and you roll them and they all come up perfect, and you look at it and you go, yes, this is exactly what I want. And then your opponent does the same thing and you go down in a ball of flames. But I love that kind of thing.
Right.
It's a living card game format. There was a freaky section for a while there with the promos that Plaid Hat said we will address, and everyone freaked out and blew up in everyone's face, and then they fixed it and it all went away.
Right.
The living card game format, that suits me perfectly. And they're coming out at a reasonable rate. I mean, the next 2 expansions are next month.
I mean, when you say living card game, I think of the Fantasy Flight games, which I've played them, but I don't think Plaid Hat has the intention of pumping them out as fast as Fantasy Flight.
I think they said a couple of mini expansions and one big expansion per year.
Yeah.
And that gives you a chance to sit down and make some decks and work out what the meta game is and learn how to play these. And then they introduce 10, 15 new cards, at which point you go, oh, this will be cool with this and this will be cool with this. You know, the FFG's living card game format once a month, I've been there, and the problem is you don't get enough time to play your decks. And then it all changes.
Yeah. And that was my biggest concern with Ashes. I mean, everything you said, I mean, the artwork is gorgeous. That's what drew me into the game when I demoed it at Origins last year. I like the mechanics because, like you, I like chucking the dice. I like being able to manipulate those dice a little bit. But my fear was the whole, you know, am I going to get enough time to play the new stuff that comes out and figure out what it does before the next thing comes out? And unlike you, I'm not a tournament player. I mean, I rarely ever play in a tournament, so that doesn't hold a great, a great amount of curiosity for me to jump into that. I know you like building the decks more so than I do, but it's one of those games that, again, I know since my son is big into Magic that I think he'll like Ashes as well.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know I can't remember if I put it on my list. I do enjoy it a lot though, quite a bit. It's a beautiful game, absolutely gorgeous, and the mechanics and on the art.
Plus, there's that TTS module, tabletop simulator module. Yeah. I've played with that a number of times, and it's a little bit clunkier than playing it on the table, but it gives you access to the whole world. It's awesome.
Definitely a different way to get the game to the table.
Right.
All right, so what was that, 7?
I think so.
Yes. All right, so my number 7 was a game that I have wanted to play for a couple of years. Had a couple opportunities to play at the conventions. The games always get canceled. And then I finally was able to play it last year at Origins, and then quickly bought it as soon as it came on sale at Cool Stuff one day, and that was Francis Drake.
Okay.
Francis Drake, beautiful game. Artwork is beautiful. The little ships are cool, but it's one of those, again, it's a worker placement game, and the style of they have the docks up at the top, and you take turns by placing your person at certain points on the dock to gather the resources or upgrade your ships or get a certain personality that allows you to do things on the board. And it's one of those things where, again, you're debating, do I want to go here or to beat the person to it, my opponent? But the caveat being, you can never go backwards on the dock. So once you pass something, you can't go back. So and that dock changes kind of how it's laid out every turn too. So again, it's not a heavy game by any means. I'd say medium at its heaviest, but it's a cool game. It's a cool theme, and it's definitely one that I think has flown under the radar since it first came out. I got a little buzz. Right. Like anything else, and today it gets a little buzz the first month or so, and then unless certain reviewers are touting it probably falls off. So, but yeah, Francis Drake. I don't think you've played it, have you?
No. Do you have the expansion?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
It's one of those games that I've almost pulled the trigger on so many times, but it's kind of, I'm not sure.
Right.
And I'd need to see.
And that's why I waited for the sale.
Right. I'd need to see it played or play it, but it's a theme that attracts me.
Well, you can come and watch me play it.
Okay, I'll watch you play.
If all you need to do is see it played.
That's right. You can video yourself playing it and put it on
I'll
YouTube.
send it to you. So, all right. So my number 7, Francis Drake. Number 6. Okay, my number 6 is another worker placement game. Which, you know, when I made this list, I started looking. I'm like, I got a lot of worker placement games on here, and I don't consider myself to be a big worker placement gamer or a Euro gamer. But maybe I am more than I thought. Well, my number 6 is another one of those, kind of like Francis Drake, where I wanted to play it for a while, kept getting the games canceled at conventions, and then when I was in Grand Con up in Grand Rapids in Michigan in the fall, I was able to play it, and not only was able to play it, but the guy who was running it was the publisher of the game, Patrick Nickel from Crash Games, and the game is Pay Dirt. And Pay Dirt is, the theme is you're mining for gold. And if you ever watch the Discovery Channel Gold Rush, that's kind of where they get their muse, I suppose, for lack of a better term. But I love Gold Rush. I thought it was a great show when it first came out, so that's what kind of drew me to the game. Beautiful graphics on it, cool little golden nuggets for the bits, and it is designed by Tori Neiman.
Okay.
And Tori Neiman is probably most famous for Alien Frontiers, which I just got to play this last month or so.
Okay.
Which may make my 2016. I don't know. It's a great game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Anyways, Pay Dirt. You are trying to build up your mining operation. You can buy equipment. You can upgrade that equipment. You can buy workers. You can upgrade those workers. Some workers are better than others. Obviously, there's costs associated with all those, depending on the best type of equipment you buy. And then you're processing. It's a very lateral or lineal movement with your ore before it converts to the gold. And then you have to decide, do I want to use the gold to buy stuff, or do I want to keep it in the vault towards the end scoring mechanic. But plays pretty fast. It's really pretty simple. Again, I'd say medium weight. The bad news that I heard about it is that since Crash Games has now kind of rebranded themselves Crash of Games, and they're part of Geek Chic now, they're focusing more on lightweight family style games. So I don't think they're ever going to reprint it. So I'm glad I got my copy when I did. And I actually, when I bought it, I was able to get the Kickstarter edition for the retail price. So
that's always good.
I was pretty happy about that. So that was my number 6.
All right, my number 6 is Flying Colours by Mike Nagel, 2010. But it's rapidly becoming one of my go-to systems. I love big ships, big Napoleonic ships slamming away at each other, ripping each other to
There must
pieces.
be a song in that. I love big ships.
Love big ships, and I cannot lie.
There you go.
All right. One of the things that attracts me to this system is that you can play it solo. There is no hidden information, and it plays a real good game solo. The second thing is it scales well. You can play it with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. I've played it with 4, the maximum, and I think much beyond that, and you're going to get into downtime issues. The base box set comes with a huge number of scenarios. A friend of mine is very kind of, we could use this for scenarios, and we could use this for scenarios. And I realised the other day, I don't think I have a single game where I played every scenario yet.
Right.
So consequently, I'm not worried about scenarios.
Yeah.
I painted some miniatures for it, and I've taken it to a con and run it as a con game with multiple people who have never played before, and it went real well. I just enjoy the game because it plays well, it's smooth, it's easy to play. It's not difficult to learn, even though it's a GMT war game, but it isn't difficult to learn. The play sheets can be a bit intimidating, but they're not.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that will probably scare most people off is they'll see the GMT label on it and assume, well, this is and it is a war game, but it's not. Right. It's not a heavy war game, and it's not one that non-war gamers wouldn't enjoy. I mean, they think they'll get as much out of that as they will any other sort of, let's say, I guess, I'm trying to think of the best mechanic to
Move and shoot.
Yeah,
Move and shoot.
I guess.
That's pretty much it. Move and shoot.
yeah. This is a game that I've put in my cart numerous times on different online stores, or of P500 the expansions on GMT,
Right.
and then take it out of my P500, only because I know you have it.
Right.
And I don't know, other than that, how much I would play it. I mean, yeah, I know it has a solo thing, but that wouldn't probably be my go-to
Agreed.
genre for a solo game. Although I do like, I like the time period. I like the,
Right.
I like the theme. I don't know. I would have to be in the right mood to play it solo, probably.
Number 5.
Okay, our number 5s. Dan, what do you got?
My number 5 is a game Dean has played, Race Formula 90 by Gotha Games.
Okay.
Alessandro Lala's the designer, published in 2013. Now, Alessandro is a really awesome guy. I have to say this now. I decided that I wanted to large scale this game. Now, normally the game is played on a map that's about this big. So me being a war gamer, I decided, hey, 4 foot by 6 foot would be good. Let's go buy some 1/64 scale cars and do a 4 foot by 6 foot map, and we'll play it. Now, I contacted Alessandro and I said, hey, do you mind if I print out this map big? Because the company I was going to print it through was asking for permission, and his response was, sure, go ahead, just don't sell it. He has been really helpful. He sent me the file I needed to print the actual thing itself. He is on BGG. He actively supports the forum. He responded one time. He actually responded because I sent him an email. He's in England, obviously. I sent him an email, and the phone must have beeped and woke him up, and he responded immediately to me. So, good guy, great game. The game itself is a hand management game. That's pretty much what it is. It's a racing game with hand management. I've heard it described as a racing game if it was designed by a wargamer. Dean is not a great fan of racing games.
No.
I know that. I introduced him to the game, and he's played, two times with me now?
Yeah.
And every single game has been a fun game. It takes I'd say about half an hour for players to go from complete rookies to having a reasonable idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the great thing I like about this game is it's forgivable of mistakes. If you're new and you don't know what's going on, you can really mess up early on in the game, but it doesn't completely knock you out for the rest of the game. It means you have to play a little bit, but you're not out.
Right.
You're still competitive. I mean, the game we played at CincyCon, you took the lead from me in the very last turn.
Yeah, and I actually came from, when I had to pit, I actually was in the very back of the pack.
Right.
I was able to wiggle my way back up and win it on the last turn, last play of cards. And like Dan said, listen, when I played it, I had no expectations that I was going to like this game at all. I was pleasantly surprised that the first time I played it. Second time, I felt a little more confident in what I was doing. Right. And like I said, it very much is, it's a hand management, it's a card-driven game. You're drawing cards, you're making sure that you are kind of using or burning your tires or saving your tires when you need to. You have to choose when to pit.
Right.
There's things going on in it where you have to make decisions, but there are it's where we're at right now with the game. It's not overly deep. I know it can go a lot deeper with more choices, which I'm intrigued by, which I never thought I would be. But it is it's a fun game. And I don't know if it's so much more enjoyable for me because it's a bigger scale. Like you said, you blew it up.
Right.
If I would have the same amount of fun on the board. But if you like Formula One racing, if you like racing games in general, or if you like card-driven games, hand management, you might want to check it out and give it a try. It's, like I said, I have no real passion for racing games at all. And I've enjoyed it both times that I've played.
The interesting thing is, if you watch the most recent Grand Prix, Australia 2016, Sebastian Vettel did exactly what I tried in the last game. I tried coming out on super soft tyres, hammering as fast as I could to pull away, and then going in and getting the harder tyres on the second round out to see if I could hold down the race. Same strategy pulled by Ferrari in the last race, and they also lost on the last lap.
Lost on the lap. Well, he must have been a great driver. Okay, my number 5 is, it's actually a combination game. 2 different small card games that I have on here. And the reason that I enjoyed them so much, or that I have enjoyed playing them this year so much, is that I've been able to play them not only with my family, been able to take one of them on the road and play it solo, and I've been able to introduce our relatives over the holidays to these games, and they enjoyed them immensely. Matter of fact, I bought copies of them for them to give to them because they enjoyed them so much. And that is No Thanks and The Game.
Okay.
No Thanks, very quick card game. You're trying to get the lowest score, so you're trying to draw numbers. If you can get numbers in sequence, then only the lowest number scores. So if you have 17, 18, 19, only the 17 counts against you for the points. If you had 17, 19, 21, you have breaks in there, then all of those are going to add up. So think of it like golf. Low score wins. There's also little red chips that you can put on the card to pass it around, so you don't have to draw the card.
You did a video on this.
I did. Yeah, I did a review of it, and it's a very simple game, but almost anyone can play it if they've got a shred of a brain in their head. And then The Game, which I also did a video on. The Game is a German publication. It was up for one of the Spiel Awards. Card game. Think of it like solitaire on steroids almost. You can play it with partners, or you can play it as a co-op, or you can play it solo. And I play it a lot solo, and it's a hard game. It's one of those ones where you have 4 cards. 2 of them you're going in ascending order, 2 of them you're going in descending order. And the idea is that if we're playing, say we're playing a 2-player game, I have to play 2 cards, and then you have to play 2 cards, and I have to play 2. You can tell your partner, tell your teammates, hey, stop playing here, but you can't really get any more specific, like I have this number. Okay. Just say stop playing on this stack. Now, they may not be able to stop playing on that stack because they have to play 2 cards. If at any time you can't play 2 cards, the game is over. Oh. I'm trying to think. I think I've won once playing as a co-op with like 4 people, and then I've won once or twice playing solo. But it's a hard game. It's like I said, it's not a hard game mentally, but it's a hard game to win. So that's my number 5. No Thanks and The Game.
Okay.
Number 4. My number 4 is a game that I had heard a lot about, had never really had a chance to play it. Really, I was kind of scared to play it because I'd heard how heavy it is and how hard it is, and some people just said it's horrible. And it's a Feld game, so it was one of those, I'm like, I don't know. But we went to Cabs, Columbus area board gamers, I don't know, sometime last year. We made a drive over there, a couple-hour drive, and decided, you know what, I'm going to take a chance. Someone was setting up the game, and I dipped my toe into the waters of Feld and enjoyed it quite a bit. Not that I hadn't played some of his other games, but this one in particular, and that was Trajan.
Trajan, yeah.
Wow. Again, another one of these games that I didn't have high expectations going in, but after I played, and I had no idea really what I was doing till at least halfway through the game. Maybe not, maybe never during the game when I played it. But it was one of those games that hours after I was done playing it, I was still thinking about it.
I actually sat and watched you guys play that game. I was actually observing that game.
There is so much going on in that game.
Oh, I know.
I mean, like I said, I'm sure I have only scratched the surface of the game, but it's one of those, there's so many different ways. I guess that's why they talk about a point salad. Right. That's the type of game they're talking about. But, you have the different things you can do, and then you've got the Mancala sort of mechanic with the rondel where you're picking up and dropping, but you have to have a certain sequence. I'll tell you what, like I said, hours after I played that, the drive home, I was still thinking about it.
He's not joking.
And
that
to
was
me,
the drive home.
To me, that's the sign of a good game. If I'm still thinking about it 2 or 3 hours later, then it's done its job. And I ended up picking up a copy. I think I picked it up at the auction when I was up in Chicago. A game store was having an auction. And so I got it on the cheap. But, yeah, haven't played it since I got it, but I own it now, so I guess that's half the battle. So that was my number 4, Trajan.
My number 4 is Eldritch Horror. 2013. Number of reasons for this. First of all, love Cthulhu. And I know that's something that seems like a real surprise from a wargamer.
Yeah.
But I got into H.P. Lovecraft when I was in college, found a book in an old store, sat down, read it, and thought, yeah, this is really cool stuff. Got my friend Steve into it, and ever since then I've been a Cthulhu fan.
Okay.
Played Call of Cthulhu, role-playing game back in the day. And now Eldritch Horror comes out. Now, it's a fantastic game. It's got a story to it. It just rolls. When you're playing with Dean, the minute he opens his mouth and says, hey, we've got this and this is going to be good, we know we're dying.
I have that ability.
I played it with solo a number of times. I've played it with 2 people. I've played it with 4 people. It works great every single time.
Okay. Yeah, I've never played it solo, so I'm looking forward to trying it, but I'll take your word for it for now.
Right. So, yeah, Eldritch Horror. Solid game.
Okay. Yeah, I love Eldritch Horror as well. I just recently bought it because I want to have it in the collection. I never worried about it because you always had it. But, yeah, it's a solid game. Definitely can understand why it's so highly ranked on BGG.
Right.
Number 3. Okay, so moving on to my number 3. My number 3 is my first G&T game compared to others. And that is it's Combat Commander. And the reason I enjoy Combat Commander so much and have such a great time with it is because it is the game that has allowed my son to escalate from Memoir and some of those lighter war games to a little, I wouldn't even say it's a heavier war game, it just has a little bit more going on. It's a card-driven game. It's one of the first I think it's the first card-driven game I ever played. And I was skeptical at first because there's no dice rolling.
Right.
You know, the dice are right there on the cards. But there's so many things to do in this game. How you utilize those cards, really like any card-driven game. Small platoon level action, but they've got European, Pacific, Resistance. You've got East Front, West Front. So many different scenarios and maps, and the replayability is just through the roof. Probably one of those games, like I said, that we'll never play every possible scenario, just because there's so many out there. And I know there are a lot of people that kind of poo-poo it because it's not ASL or Advanced Squad Leader. My personal choice, I just think for me, it's a better fit. It's a better game.
Right.
It allows us to get the game to the table more often than we would ASL.
And honestly, for me, all the things people hate about it is why I love it so much. The sheer chaos of it, the occasional inability to do what is obviously a blindingly good move, but you just can't.
Right.
The other thing is the narrative. There's a story in that really I enjoy.
Yeah, and I think, and I've never tried it, but I think there's a way now to kind of career your officers or your kind of special heroes, like I think they call them, don't they?
Right.
Some of them.
It's in a C3I. They put one in, and it gives you the career option, and you get a personal investment in the officers.
Right. Yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's so elegant. It's just an elegantly designed game that you wouldn't necessarily think you'd find in a war game.
Right.
So even if you're not a war gamer, and especially if you are a war gamer, if you haven't checked out Combat Commander, you should check it out. It is definitely it hits on all cylinders. There's really nothing I don't like about it.
Yeah, and at the risk of being a GMT fanboy, the risk, right? Yeah, the production quality is outstanding. The thing I love about it is its tiny footprint.
Right.
I mean, a table this size and you've got everything laid out, and when I first saw it, I opened up the map and I thought, yeah, right, that's not going to be a good game. And then I slapped the stuff down and it's like, yeah, this works.
Yeah. Excuse me. Oh, you had me there.
Okay. We can end. My number 3 is it's another GMT game. No, Wilderness War by Voko Runke. It's an old one, 2001.
Yeah.
But this game just gets a whole historical feel for me. It's the game that really got me interested in the French and Indian War, which, coming from England, we call the 7 Years' War. But here, obviously, French and Indian has, a lot more, especially in this area of Ohio where a lot of it happened. The game itself runs smoothly, it's easy to learn, and it just flows. I've played multiple games of it. I'm playing a game of with it on Vassal right now, and I've never had 2 games run the same, and that's one of my key choices, the replayability. I've played it live a number of times. I've played it on Vassal 3 times now, and I've never had the same game twice. Plus, occasionally when Wolf decides to turn up, I've actually been to Wolf's house. I've seen his uniform, and it brings it real home. And that big painting of Wolf dying at Quebec,
right?
And when I was a kid, we went to the house, and it was like General Wolf. It's like, oh, okay, it's a general. He died. And now I've got this game, and I've started reading about the history. I've been to Fort William and Henry. It brings the whole thing home.
I'm trying to think. Was that one of the first card-driven games?
It was up there in amongst that first little crop when you had, was it We the People?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You had the old Avalon Hill. What was it? Avalon Hill Hannibal. You had Paths of Glory.
Oh yeah, Paths of Glory's been out.
Right. So it was at the beginning of the whole.
Not the first,
CDG.
but definitely in the.
Right.
One of the front runners.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great game. I haven't played it in a long time, but it's a classic. It hasn't lost anything. Nothing's replaced it.
No.
There hasn't been a better French and Indian War game come out.
There's a few out there. I mean, there's a few Acres of Snow.
Yeah, but I don't think it displaces Wilderness War. I mean, they're 2 different games.
Right.
So, okay.
Number 2.
My number 2 is a game that you already mentioned, so I think it's our first crossover, isn't it?
Yep.
And that is a GMT game, and I think that's my second GMT game. And that is Churchill. Sorry with a C. Churchill, and I really thought it'd be higher on your list, or lower on your list, however you want to phrase it. And because I know how much you enjoyed it when it first came out.
Oh, right.
We played it, and I know you played it probably more than I have. But the thing I love about Churchill is, it's a card-driven game, and we kind of beat that to a dead horse here. But it's the kind of the personality that the players take on while they're playing the game.
Right.
It almost, I wouldn't say it's an RPG aspect, but it really kind of is. You get into a character. When you're playing Stalin or you're playing Roosevelt or Churchill, and you talked about it before, certain people are better suited to play certain of those commanders. But it's one of those games that I know you can play it solo, but I don't know if I ever would because it takes away from that whole personality aspect.
Right. You really have to get inside the mind of the person you are to understand what their objectives are, because their people are designed around those objectives.
And it's almost, you can see it sometimes in the beginning of the game where, say, the person playing Churchill really wanted to get that certain piece of agenda passed through, and they don't get it, and then they just kind of stew about it the rest of the game, and you can pick up on that, and you can really just kind of put the knife in there. And even though you're all allies, Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt, you are competing with each other because they all had different political agendas that they wanted to get through. And so it's kind of weird to a certain degree, but you are at loggerheads, and battling it out for, I don't want this front to open.
Right.
I'd rather focus here. And so you're trying to manipulate that whole thing, just like they did in back in the 40s.
Well, it's the whole concept that you can all lose, but only one of you can win.
Right. Yeah, you're playing for second place, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, great game. And then people either love it or hate it. I've seen some negative reviews, seen some really positive reviews. So probably isn't for everybody, but for me, I just love that time period. I like the politics involved with it.
Right.
I like the mechanics of the game. So it's a winner in my book.
I agree. Number 2 is a new game. Shockingly enough, came out 2015. Matt Laycock, and that's Thunderbirds.
Oh yeah.
Now, Dean probably thought that was going to be my number 1 because he was here when I played it for the first time, and I was behaving like a 12-year-old playing the game.
I didn't know if it'd be. I knew it'd be on your list.
Right. I mean, everything about Thunderbirds I love, but I think a lot of that, well, not a lot of it, quite a bit of that comes from the fact that Thunderbirds was a show I was really into as a kid in the UK. It was all about doing rescues across the world with really cool pieces of equipment. It was a marionette show which honestly freaks a lot of people out.
Yeah, they are pretty freaky.
They are odd looking. I mean, as a historical point of view, we actually, was it last week, we actually lost Sylvia Anderson, who was the person who played the voice of one of the characters and did all the costumes.
Wow.
And
when you say we, do you mean like the Thunderbird fan
the
club?
Thunderbird everybody. The
everybody's a
world
Thunderbird.
lost. The world lost Sylvia Anderson.
I missed that on Facebook.
Right. The voice of Lady Penelope, the person who drives the pink Rolls Royce with a machine gun in it. I mean, what's not to love about a pink Rolls Royce with a machine gun? But beyond the theme, there's a really solid game in there. It's all about risk management. There's a whole bunch of rescues to do. You move around the world rescuing stuff, but at the same time you're trying to defeat the bad guy, who's the evil hood, lives in a temple in Thailand. Nobody knows why, but he does.
Did they ever show his face?
Yeah. He's actually the twin brother of someone in the show.
Oh, okay.
But the key thing is that there's a really good game in there, and it's all about asset management. Matt Laycock, obviously, pandemic. And you can see the pandemic ideas coming in there. It's not like Pandemic, first of all, but you can see the ideas that coming in there and the solid design that was there. The other thing is that I like the scalability. If you really want to go with insane difficulty, the game allows you to set it up that way, and it will probably kick your butt. But if you want a little bit of a more fun, lighter game, you can go with a lower level of difficulty, and there's a chance you're going to win.
Yeah, I'm assuming you can play it solitaire, right?
Correct.
You play
I play
solo.
it solitaire.
And you definitely can tell. I mean, it has that pandemic vibe of running around the world, putting out fires.
Pretty much.
So, but it's a solid game. I think you'll enjoy it much more if you are a fan of the Thunderbirds. But as someone who only sporadically ever saw the show, it was still a solid game, and it was still a lot of fun.
Right.
It was fun just to see him get so much enjoyment out of the game. But two, it reminded me of kind of like an Austin Powers. And I don't know, I'm sure they probably stole a lot of it, or a lot of Austin Powers from that whole genre and that whole time period.
Right.
But just the little crazy, schemes that are going on and what they want. But it's a fun game. It really is. I knew you were gonna like it and be on your list, but yeah, I don't know if I'd ever go out and buy it, just because I don't know what the point would be.
Yeah, Thunderbirds was 50 years old last year.
Yeah.
And I still watch the show. It's sad to say I have all the episodes, and I'll sit down and
Every
watch the
Saturday.
show.
So yeah, Thunderbird, it's a cool game. I enjoyed it.
Right.
So all right, so that was your number 2, right?
Okay, number 1.
Oh yeah, number 1. Number 1. All right, my number 1. I'll go first because mine's actually a crossover to yours, and that is Eldritch Horror. And for all the reasons that you already said about Eldritch Horror, I can only reiterate them. I don't know what it is about the game because I've never won. I've never played it solo.
I've never won either.
But I've never won anytime I've ever played it. And maybe that's what drives me to want to play it more and more, just because you seem so close so many times, and then it's just ripped away from you at the last minute. But there's just something about that game. I've never had a bad experience playing the game. Even when I've played the game with people that can get on my nerves, it's still an enjoyable experience.
Right, and I think it's the story. It
Yeah.
generates a narrative. You feel an investment in the story, and even if you go down, which you inevitably do,
Yeah.
you feel like you've generated a good story doing it.
Especially when one of your characters gets killed and like all their equipment's laying there,
Right.
and someone else comes in and takes it. Oh, that's so irritating. That just drives me insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eldritch Horror Fantasy Flight Games. Check it out. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it. If you haven't, take a look at it. Co-op game. There's no trader element to it, which is nice.
Right.
So many things going on. A couple expansions out for it, but man, the base game gives you so much. And honestly, you could probably play that base game for a long time before you'd ever need anything else, just
Right.
because winning is so rare. I mean, at least for anyone that I know, winning is a rarity in that game.
Oh yeah. And,
Which may turn some people off. I don't know.
it's not a bad. If you're looking at it from the enjoyable story aspect,
Right.
then winning is fantastic when it happens. But if it doesn't, you still got a good story out of it.
So Eldritch Horror is my number one. So what's yours?
My number one is another GMT game, Wing Leader by Lee Brimacombe Wood. That was put out last year, and I saw a lot of buzz about that when it first came out. And Lee's an outstanding aircraft game designer. You can see he loves aircraft. I mean, he's done was it Burning Blue? Battle of Britain, he's done Downtown, Vietnam War, he's done Elusive Victory, which is the Arab-Israeli Wars, and now he's got Wing Leader. Wing Leader's different though, in that the perspective is side-on. It's one of the few air games that have a different look on it. You're not looking at it from above and manoeuvring laterally, you're manoeuvring horizontally. And it works. A lot of people say, well, you know, aircraft movement's all about side to side, but it's not when you look at the design idea. The design idea here was to produce a game that accurately simulated interceptor versus raid.
Gotcha.
One side plays a raid, one side plays an interceptor. And the raid aircraft have limited maneuverability, and the interceptors are kind of swarming around the raid.
Okay.
And there is a dogfight mechanic in it, but it's an abstracted dogfight mechanic, and honestly, it works. I've played multiple games live on the table. I've played multiple games on Vassal, and it works real well on Vassal. The games are fast. I mean, you can get a scenario done in a couple of hours. Plus, there's a sheer range. I mean, from the Battle of Britain to the Pacific to the Russian front. Plus there's a new box set coming out which runs the game from 1942 onwards, that's going to have a whole bunch of new stuff in it, and it's also going to have the big bombers in it, B-17s, B-24s, and a lot of that kind of stuff.
Will you get to play the bombers, or are you playing the escorts?
You play both. But really, honestly, unless you're doing a ground attack mission, the bombers move 2 spaces forward per turn. Done.
I gotcha.
And the escorts are there to protect them. Now the bombers do fight back, obviously they've got defensive mechanisms, but there's anti-aircraft. And the other thing is, and the thing that really got me for it, is it's the first game where ground control intercept actually has a really positive function. If you're doing Battle of Britain, for example, your GCI is the guys who are vectoring your fighters, and if they get it wrong or can't contact the fighters, then the raid can fly right underneath you, and you can't touch them.
And you haven't seen that in another game before? Or not done well in another game?
I've seen it done, but not as elegantly abstracted as the way they've done it here.
Okay.
I've seen it done in, for example, Elusive Victory, where you have to write commands and so on and so on. But this is just elegant. Plus the counters look really nice.
Yeah, I remember when you first got it, you talked about it all the time, and you blogged about it, and Solo, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah. So, haven't played it. Probably will never play it, but that's just just not there, guys. So
Right.
I would have to. It would have to be probably simplified and dumbed down a lot for me to want to play it. I can barely handle Armada apparently. So, but yeah, cool. So Wing Leader, you're number 1.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, that wraps up this top 10, the very first one from Board Game Social. Hope you enjoyed it. We're looking for different, obscure top 10s to do. Maybe outside the box. Not quite the same as every other channel that's pumping them out there. So we'll think about it. We'll rack our brains. I'm sure you guys will give us lots of positive and encouraging and constructive advice on what you liked and what you didn't like. But until next time, please take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.